All right, welcome back to KDKA-TV. Bob Pompeani, Andrew Fillipponi. Got some tweets in at KD Pomp at The Pony Show. Ron Matthews says, do you guys think the Blue Jackets and Islanders having so much time off between playoff series will actually hurt them? I don't know how to think that. Sometimes, Andrew, I think it is a problem. Sometimes I think rest is better. So how do you sit on that topic?
I think in the case of the Blue Jackets, it's not a bad thing because I think Boston and Toronto are taking a lot out of each other, to be quite honest with you. I think Columbus has got a little mojo going for themselves right now. Tortorella, I think, has kind of found something, exuberance here. They have a devil don't care mindset because, 3 weeks ago they thought they were going to miss the playoffs. So now that they've slayed Goliath, you got to figure they probably feel like the biggest test is behind them. And I would not be surprised if Columbus beat Boston or Toronto in the second round. I think they're very much a live wire as the last team into the East. I could see them getting to the Stanley Cup final.
Very unpredictable playoffs so far. I mean, there are a lot of teams. Vegas is involved in a great game with San Jose right now, which is going to a second overtime. But you look at the Blues and what they've done. You look at the #1 seeds, which have been ousted. It's not necessarily surprising to see the President's Cup team lose eventually, but to have two #1s go down on the first time, that's never happened before. Jim in Castle Shannon. Go, Jim. How are you tonight?
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Hey, 3 questions for you. Number 1, John Coach should never try to come in to score. And the second thing is that Pirates need to score more runs because when they play the better teams, they can't just score 1 or 2 runs and hope to win. They're going to need more. And number 3, this is the first time that the NFL drafts on ABC on Thursday.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Those are points. They weren't questions, but they were comments. But I appreciate that. I guess the first one is what we'll all be talking about. We made our case on that. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't, because I think if it had worked, it would have been a great call. It's just one of those things that happens. I understood Clint Hurdle's rationale for it, as Andrew explained. So, it is what it is. They lost a game. There are other reasons why they lost that game besides that play. It came down to that play, and that'll get all the highlights. All right, Andrew, let's go out to Ron in Johnstown. Go ahead, Ron. You're on the sports call.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I want to comment about the ownership of the Pirates. You look like this year, if the pitching staff keeps performing the way they are, if we would have had an owner when I got a couple position players. And my question is he getting enough, with the attendance declining every year, is they getting enough money like for Major League Baseball TV contracts and the so-called, what is that, luxury tax where teams, the bigger teams like the Yankees and have to spend over a certain amount, they give the lower teams. Do you think there would be a point where he'll be losing enough money with the attendance that they would sell?
No, they're not. They make their money before they even have the first fan come through the gate on opening day. So to me, the idea that they're attached at the hip, your attendance and your payroll, I've never believed that. That might have been true in the 1980s and 90s, but with advanced media now and with the big contracts with Fox and TBS and with luxury tax and revenue sharing, I don't think that's a good enough excuse. I don't.
No, I don't. But there's a part of me that likes to watch young people play, and I'm glad, even though it was a horrendous collision between Gonzalez and Marte, I was glad to see that it forced them. Cole Tucker, many people felt, should have been up here from the very beginning, so we'll see. Maybe he can handle it, maybe he can't. If he can, he gets sent down. But I don't think the Pirates had him in here right now. By the way they wanted to play this game, they didn't want him up here right now.
No, they didn't, and that's why they went out and got Gonzalez in that trade last November. But Gonzalez is a career .220 hitter, and he's 26, 27 years old. So I'd rather see the former first-round pick get a shot. He was great in spring training, and Tucker made a fabulous first impression on Saturday. So, Bob, as far as I'm concerned, it's his job to lose, and I wouldn't just give him a 2-week experiment. I'd give him some time here to kind of find himself, and if there are some struggles, don't be in a rush to send him back down to the minor leagues.
What I love to see is the youthful enthusiasm that he brings, and he's a very high personality guy, which I love. I think more athletes should just enjoy themselves more than they do instead of worrying about questions. Like I mentioned to you tonight how annoyed I'm getting at Russell Westbrook in the NBA because every question is like Marshawn Lynch. Next comment.
Well, what I don't get
question.
Is,
next comment. I mean, answer the question. It's not that difficult. You're making a whole bunch of money. Play the game a little.
Baseball's slogan for 2019 is let the kids play. So they understand that if they're going to attract younger viewers, they've got to get hip and allow these guys to show more of their personality. And sometimes that means they're more demonstrative going around the bases. They celebrate big hits.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's not. I mean, if you watch a golf tournament and a guy makes a long putt, does he get excited about it? Yes, it happens in every sport. So I don't understand why there's this old guard in baseball that says don't celebrate things. We're seeing that out of Cole Tucker, and I think it's a breath of fresh air, frankly.
I love it. Let's go to Jim in the South Hills. Jim, welcome to the Sports Call. Go ahead.
First of all, great show, guys. Try to watch every night.
Thank you.
Two things about the Pirates. Number one is I don't understand why Gung was still at first, was on first base and they didn't have Reyes come in to pinch run. Herter's been doing it all year. He didn't do it today for some reason.
It has something to do with his bench.
Makes it home.
But I would agree. That's the play that I had to make, given where they were in the bottom of the ninth. You're trying to win the game at that point, and who knows? Right. So, yes. And it's a shame because I thought Brian Reynolds had a great day. We celebrated.
It was a shame. It was a shame. In fact, I don't know if you watched the game, but after the game, the Pirates just lost. He comes into the dugout and everybody's high-fiving him, which I thought was pretty cool.
I agree with you. All right. Thanks, brother. Appreciate the call.
The sin with Reyes is he's got to be in the game after. When Gung gets on, he should come out immediately for Reyes.
No, that's what I mean. At that point, you're trying to win a game in the bottom of the ninth. When you're at home, you try to win, and that's part of winning at that point because you knew Gung didn't have it. They tried to force it, and a bad throw, perhaps he might have, but it was...
In a bobble.
In a bobble, right. I wonder if he hadn't bobbled what they would have done. They had to keep him there, right? They had to do it. And then Clint would have been forced to do what he didn't want to do.
Diaz would have been walked, and then Reyes would have come up
Originally,
with the
that was a
bases
spot
loaded
for
and 2 outs.
Martin, but Diaz had come... Yeah, so... And that would have left you with somebody... Reyes versus who was on the... It was Will Smith.
The closer.
Yeah,
which is not a great matchup, though.
But, hey, if you're going to grow up and play in Major League Baseball, you need opportunities. And this would have been one of them.
Well, so my take on that, Bob, is what are the odds that Gung is safe at home plate? Maybe like 30%? Somewhere in that neighborhood?
I don't even know if that much.
Well, the odds of Reyes getting hit there probably weren't much better than 20%.
You invite a wild pitch, a pass ball, an error, anything, a hit batsman.
And a hit wins the game instead of ties it in that situation.
All right, let me squeeze in one more if you don't mind here, Steve. Okay, let's go to Nunzio in Braddock. Nunzio, go ahead.
Gentlemen, good evening.
Hi.
Happy evening to you.
You too.
Was I the only one that noticed that Kang went by way of left field to come around to third base?
Yeah, Steve, our producer, was saying the same thing. He said he took a wayward turn at second. He was way out.
Yeah.
That wasn't the best of routes.
Gung's had a rough start. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I know he's got 3 home runs, but he's a 143 hitter. I don't think he's been that spectacular in the field, and we've seen that his base running isn't what it was back in 2015. So, they're going to be loyal to the guy because they don't have a ton invested in him financially, but they look at him as a guy that can be a big swing player this year, Bob, because he brings power and not a lot of guys in their lineup possess that. But I wouldn't say that he has not carried over his success from spring training into the regular season.
But I didn't expect it this early. I think it takes time, and he's a better defensive option than Moran was, too, at least for that comparison.
But Moran's been a better hitter.
He has. Henry, Tim, Mark, you're all coming up next right here when we come back. It's the Nightly Sports Call on Pittsburgh CW.